Most Aussies invest in property the wrong way. They buy everything in their personal name, and it works until it doesn't. Usually they'll hit a wall with tax, asset protection, or loan structuring. That one mistake can cost them hundreds of thousands over their investing lifetime. But there is a smarter way. And today, I'll show you exactly how to use trust structures step by step to protect your wealth and help you scale properly. Now, make sure you stick with me to the end because later in the video, I'll share a real world case study of an investor who went from 2 properties stuck in their own name to using trust structures that unlocked the pathway to a multi-million-dollar portfolio. And I'll share the numbers behind it. Property trusts. Some investors hear that word and their eyes glaze over. Too complicated. Legal stuff, not for me. But here's the truth. If you plan to build more than one property, and especially if you want a portfolio that lasts, then trusts and ownership structures aren't optional. They are the foundation of how wealthy Australians keep their wealth safe, reduce their tax burden, and keep scaling long after the average investor taps out. Today, I'm going to take you through this step by step. The basics. What a property trust actually is in plain English. 2, the different types of trusts in Australia and how each one is used. 3, the main benefits, tax, flexibility, asset protection, and scaling leverage. 4, I'll show you a real world case study where a trust structure made the difference. And 5, how to know if a trust fits your situation and what traps to avoid. And yes, don't worry, I'll keep everything grounded in plain English so you're not stuck in legal jargon. So step 1, what is a trust? Let's strip away the mystery. A trust is simply a legal structure where an entity holds assets on behalf of beneficiaries. In property, that usually means a trustee, often a company, buying and holding property for the benefit of you, your family, or any other member of that trust. Instead of you, Joe Smith, owning that rental in your own name, a trustee buys it inside a trust. The rent goes into the trust, the expenses flow through the trust, and at the end of the year, the trust can distribute profits or losses to beneficiaries in a flexible way. Step 2, types of trusts. Now, not all trusts are the same. Here are the key ones property investors need to know. Discretionary, often called a family trust, is the most common. They're flexible, income can be distributed to different family members depending on who's on the lowest tax rate that year. Great for reducing overall family tax. Now, unit trusts. Think of these like shares in a company. Beneficiaries own units and profits are distributed based on those units, often used when unrelated business partners invest together. Then you've got hybrid trusts, a mix of discretionary and unit. They're more complex, but can be powerful in the right situation. And lastly, you've got bear trusts, usually used in an SMSF or a self-managed super fund, especially when borrowing for property under a limited recourse borrowing arrangement. For most Aussie families building property portfolios, the discretionary or family trust is the one you'll hear about most. But always, I repeat this, you need professional, legal, and tax advice before setting this one up. Step 3, why use a trust? So the benefits in plain English, why not just keep everything simple in your own name? Well, 3 big reasons. 1, tax flexibility. In your own name, all profits get taxed at your marginal tax rate. In a trust, profits can be distributed to family members on lower tax rates. Example, let's say dad's on 180K, but mom's at home earning not very much because she's looking after the family. A hard job, but not a paid one. The trust can distribute rental income to her because she's paying less tax. 2, asset protection. If you're a business owner or in a profession that has high risk, say medical or construction, having everything in your personal name leaves you exposed. If something goes wrong legally, your investments in your properties can be at risk. Trusts, they add that extra layer of protection. Number 3, scalability. Here's the overlooked one. As you grow, lenders look at your structure. Certain banks are more willing to keep lending if properties sit within clean trust structure, rather than all of them being stacked up in your personal name with messy tax treatment. The separation can mean the difference between capping out at 2 to 3 properties versus reaching 6, 7, even 10. Now, 4, the case study I talked about earlier. Let me show you how this works in action. Lisa and Mark, they're both 38, living in Melbourne. They had 2 investment properties under their personal names, combined income of $200K. The challenge, they wanted a 3rd property, but the tax hit on their combined rental income was so high. And with both names tied up, the bank started tightening their lending. They restructured, set up a family trust with a corporate trustee. Their 3rd property went into that trust. Rental profits from the trust could be distributed to Lisa's retired father, who had very minimal income. That saved them about $8,000 in tax in just the first year. But the bigger benefit, by freeing up their personal serviceability, they were able to qualify for another loan, meaning they didn't hit that lending wall at 2 properties. Over the following years, they added another 2 properties under that same structure. Today, their portfolio is worth over $3.5 billion. If they had stayed in just their own names, they likely would have stalled out after the first 2. Now, let's be very real here. Trusts, they're not magic, and they can absolutely backfire if you don't set them up properly. So things to expect: setup costs and the complexities. Expect $1,500 to $3,000 to set up, plus annual accounting fees. Anyone who tells you it's cheap or simple is leaving a lot of things out. Land tax. In some states, trusts don't get the same land tax thresholds as individuals. This can sting if you're buying in places like New South Wales. Borrowing power. While trusts can free up personal capacity, banks still assess you carefully. If you don't structure your trustee and guarantees right, you can make borrowing harder, not easier. Lastly, irreversible mistakes. Once a property is inside a trust, it's very costly to move it out. Stamp duty and CGT come into play. So plan ahead and ensure that what you're doing is right for you. Now, if you're finding this breakdown useful and you're starting to see how much of a difference the right structure can make you wealth, hit the like button so this video reaches more Aussies stuck in the same property tax trap as yourself. And don't forget to subscribe. I release advanced strategies like this every week. Now, if you're thinking, okay, this makes a lot of sense, but do I actually need it? And if I do, what type and how do I set this up? Well, that's where we step in. In our strategy sessions, we help investors look at their current holdings, their income, and their future goals, and we map out the right ownership structure from the start, together with your accountant and legal team. If you want clarity, book your free strategy session using the link below, and let's put a proper framework in place before you buy or consider buying your next property. In the next video, we're going to walk through the refinance ladder blueprint, how everyday Aussies go from one property to a multi-million-dollar portfolio, using a step-by-step system of refinancing, equity release, and strategic buys. If you're serious about expanding, don't miss it.